1. The clay Ocethist happened almost 20 years ago before my mother had me. Back then, my family was poor. My grandparents gave my parents a plot of land to build on. And because money was tight, they put up a simple clay house, just enough to keep out the rain and sun. That's when the terrifying things began. My dad was a woodsman, basically a logger who poached timber. The forest was familiar to him. Wild beasts or ghosts were no big deal. He told me sometimes late at night while sleeping at home, I could feel someone climb onto me and pin me down. I tried to open my eyes but couldn't. I knew right away I was being ridden by a ghost. So I used every bit of strength to fight that invisible hand. After a while, my body lightened and I snapped awake, no one there. But the strangest thing was the clear imprint of hands squeezing both my upper arms. Another time in that old house, my mom woke in the night to pots and pans clattering as if something was shaking them, thinking it was rats. She got up and went to the kitchen, but the sound stopped. When everything seemed normal, she returned to bed. A moment later, she heard something again, not from the kitchen this time, but the laughter of a baby inside the house. She opened her eyes and froze. Near the bed, a woman holding a child was standing in midair, her face chalked white as she stared at my mother, smiling. My mother screamed for my father. He woke, asked what was wrong, listened to the whole story, and tried to calm her. Later, after I was born, my parents bought a sturdier house nearby and never saw anything again. When my father asked my grandmother about it, she told him that when she was young, a neighbor's baby had been buried on that land after a difficult birth took both mother and child. My dad got goosebumps. 2. The drowning Scariest was around 1994 or 1995. I'm from central Vietnam, a place of hot, dry winds and brutal storms. So my stories are as haunted as the land itself. One day in September, in a heavy rain, my grandfather took his lift net to catch fish. He went to his usual spot and did everything as normal. But strangely, despite the downpour usually good for fishing, he caught nothing. He was about to go home when he saw a man standing on a bridge, slowly walking toward him. Grandpa called out, "Where are you going in this rain?" The man said, "Herding ducks. But the rain's too heavy. If you've got a minute, help me roll up my pant legs, they keep snagging." Grandpa, being kind, agreed. But as he lifted the man's pant legs, he felt the skin slick with slime. When he rolled them higher, flesh began to slough off. From experience, he knew. A drowned spirit had come to trick him and drag him under. He ran. It would be easy for it to grab him. So he did what the old folks taught. He took the salt he kept in his pocket, rubbed it on his hands, and scrubbed the man's shins. The figure vanished. Grandpa went straight home and never fished that stretch again. In our village, they say, once it's taken an interest in you, it will get you sooner or later. The best defense is never to return to the place where you met it. 3. Out Latia, middle-aged drunk, staggered home along a deserted road, swaying and humming. He noticed a little girl squatting and scratching at the dirt with a stick. He lurched over. "Hey kid, what are you doing out here at night?" She looked up with a strange smile, eyes brimming with tears only. Her sockets seemed too deep. The hollow's pitch black. "I'm digging a hole to bury someone. My father, he abandoned us and made my mother miscarry. But now he's dead." The drunk thought, must be too poor to give him a proper burial, and lost interest. He turned away, but his foot snagged on the stick. He fell, cracked his head on a rock, and died on the spot. Mud slid over him like a ready grave dot in the silent night. The girl's voice drifted out with a chilling laugh. At last, it's done. For the school BUS as usual, I was on the school bus with headphones in, not paying attention. At one stop, I happened to look up. The bus was paused in front of Tommy's house. I knew that place. A pale hand slid past the window, signaling the driver to go on without stopping. He must be sick today, I thought. That evening at home, we watched the local news. What I heard shocked me. Tommy's entire family had been murdered that day by an unknown suspect. After hearing that, I went to my room and eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I got on the bus again. The route still passed Tommy's house. The driver didn't know about the murders yet. I was about to stand and tell him when I saw something. I'll never forget, a pallid hand drifted past the bus window again, waving the driver on just like yesterday. I sat there, terrified. 5. Wally Into MBM&T. Long ago, there was a beautiful maid working for a wealthy family. Her beauty ensnared the husband's gaze. Consumed by jealousy, the wife sent the maid on a distant errand, hoping she'd never return. But she did. The wife went mad with rage. She ordered the maid's fingernails pulled out, cut off her hair and eyelashes, then slit the corners of her mouth until they reached her ears. She had the maid's teeth ripped out, branded her with hot metal, and finally had her sealed inside. a wall of the house leaving only a tiny air hole. One night, lying in bed beside her husband, the wife felt unbearably uneasy as if watched. She pulled a wool blanket over her head and, trembling, reached out to hold her husband's hand to steady herself, but the hand she gripped was soft, sticky with something metallic smelling, and horrifyingly had no nails. 6. The CEMTRY on a rainy night, a taxi driver took a lonely road that cut through a sprawling cemetery, cold and silent. He saw something moving by the roadside. A girl with blue eyes, blonde hair, a white dress, barefoot in the rain. He was scared, but told himself she was just a local out late, even though few houses stood around there. She raised her arm to hail him. He pulled over and let her into the back seat, trying to make small talk to calm his nerves. Out late, miss? Yes, thank you. Please take me a bit further. My home is just ahead. Her voice was soft, a little chilled from the night air. Relieved to have company in the storm, he drove on. Passing the tombstones, he shivered at the bone-deep cold. When they cleared the cemetery, he turned to say something only to find the back seat empty. She had vanished. 7 street stall noodlessa factory worker, headed home late and hungry. No shops were open, so he stopped at a makeshift noodle cart. 1 bowl of beef balls with plenty of herbs. He bent to scrape the graveyard mud off his shoes. It was near the BNHHNG Holliters Cemetery. A steaming bowl appeared. The stall's old lady rasped, "Here you go." He jumped, not having heard her approach, then laughed it off and devoured the noodles. Strange. He thought the broth was hot, but the taste felt like it had been sitting for 2 or 3 weeks. The next night after work, he nudged a coworker. "Hey, want HTQ? Found a decent spot. We're the old lady at the 3-way near BNHHNG Hoey Cemetery. Close to your place, right?" The coworker blanched. Old lady with a deep raspy voice and sunken black eyes. "Yeah, I ate there yesterday." His friend shook. "She's dead. She fell, broke her leg, and died 2 weeks ago." The worker's stomach turned. He remembered the silent footsteps and that oddly cold, stale bowl. 8. The key, HOLDR. This was the most unsettling day since I joined the police. About a year ago, my partner and I were dispatched to a medical office building around 9:30 p.m. The alarm company had reported an intrusion on the upper floor. The key holder for the building was already on site and let us in. The main stairwell was behind a locked door, and the key holder didn't have that key. So we took the elevator. The doors opened onto a dark corridor with a single lamp glowing at the far end. We checked door, after door, everything locked. At the last office, however, the door was the only one unlocked. We stepped inside, an empty suite with a reception, desk, a waiting area, and maybe 10 or 12 exam rooms. We stepped back out and something was wrong. The light at the far end had gone out. The one by the elevator was on. My partner's face went white. "Weren't all these doors locked just now?" he whispered. "Yeah, why? They're all wide open." Sure enough, every office door yawned open. Every hair on my neck stood up. We mustered our courage, rechecked each room, and locked them again one by one. When we finished the last suite and started to leave, its main door slammed shut on its own. At the same time, our radios hissed and crackled with unearthly static. All we wanted was to get out. We hurried to the elevator, went back to the lobby, and the key holder was gone. We called dispatch for his number. The operator said the key holder hadn't arrived yet and asked us to wait 5 minutes. I told her we had just been let in. She insisted we couldn't have been. She'd only just reached him. When the real key holder finally arrived, woman, I described the man who'd opened the door for us. She frowned. "Sounds like the physician who rented the last suite on the 2nd floor, but he had died by suicide at home a few days earlier." 9. A summoned SBIR type. Have you ever heard of calling a spirit? Are you spiritual or a skeptic? I was a skeptic too, until something happened to a friend of mine. She had a happy family. Her dad adored her. They weren't rich, but they were content. She never imagined being apart from her parents. They weren't even that old. One late autumn evening, wind whispering through yellow leaves, she came home from school for what she didn't know would be the last time she saw her father alive. The house was heavy with grief. Her mother had cried herself dry. What happened? Her mother wept. I was in the kitchen slicing vegetables. Your father was on the hammock watching TV. I heard someone call his name, he answered, and kept cooking. And now, this? Oh God, he had just died. She was numb. That morning, he had driven her to school. She'd made him promise to get her a bicycle that evening so she could ride herself. They had Pinky Dash sworn. From then on, the house was suffocating with incense, smoke, and mourning. Her mother tried to act strong, but every night her eyes were swollen. I visited often and could hardly bear the strangeness of it all. How could someone answer a voice one moment and be dead the next? Then it happened again, this time to her mother. She was lighting incense at the altar when a voice called, Hoon. Her name. She paused, unsure if it was a neighbor, and kept praying. 3 minutes later, she opened the gate. No one. The wind stirred the trees. The street was empty. She asked around the next day. No one had been there. Some neighbors awake at that hour said they hadn't heard any voice at all. I once heard an old warning. If you hear your name called and can't tell where it comes from, never answer. Answering is agreeing to go with it. I believe that. Now, and thank heaven she didn't reply. So for those who doubt the spirit world, answer this. Where did that voice calling her father come from, and why did he die so suddenly after answering? 10. LASHSS School. Suki greeted Kizawa as usual. Hi Kizawa, was your trip fun? Great. Shopping paradise. Really? Suki paused. Kizawa's eyelashes looked different, much longer and thicker than usual. Trying false lashes in class, Suki teased. Nope, Kizawa waved her off. 100% real. Guess what? What? I found a secret weapon while shopping magic stuff. I've used it just over a week and look long and full, right? What is it? With a sly grin, Kizawa pulled a little lash serum from her pocket and pressed it into Suki's hand. Try it. It'll fix those short, thin lashes. Really? Thanks. On the way home, Suki daydreamed about transforming into a beauty with model-worthy lashes. She started that night. Week 1. They truly lengthened shockingly fast. Thrilled. She used it another week. They thickened. 2. She might skip studying or showering, but she never forgot the serum. Day 12. Her eyes started to sting like needles, as if something wanted to sprout. She considered stopping, but if Kizawa was fine, she'd endure for beauty. Day 18. Kizawa noticed Suki absent and went to check on her. The door was shut. No answer. After knocking, the door creaked open. A dread she couldn't name kept her from stepping inside. Thud, thud, Suki. Where are you? It's me, Kizawa. She fumbled for a light switch and found none. Footsteps tapped on the marble floor. Relieved, she followed the figure of her friend, who kept her head bowed and walked away, as if she hadn't heard. Kizawa caught up and touched her shoulder. What she saw, she will never forget. Suki turned. Her eyes were blood red, cloudy, weeping. Something writhed inside them. Her lashes had grown so long and thick they curled into the pupils like barbed wire. Her face was raked with fingernail gaps from the eye corners to the ears. Suki, what? Suki wheezed, voice warped. Kizawa, my eyes hurt. Something's in them. Should I take them out? The last thing Kizawa saw. Suki dug into her sockets, pulling out both eyes with a forest of long lashes, and smiled in relief. A note on why horror works. People often ask, how can horror be entertaining? It sounds paradoxical. Surely it's only tense and nerve-wracking. But a good horror story can help more than you think. It can sharpen logical thinking, stretch the imagination, and train you to connect clues. Yes, it's chilling and shocking at times, but each story often carries a meaningful message. Whether you're watching a horror film or reading a ghost story, the overarching narrative can deliver a surprisingly human value that lingers long after the scare.